We got a full moon in Capricorn coming up this week, and the ruler of that full moon, Saturn, is turning retrograde a couple of days later in the sign of Aries. So this is a time of practicality, illuminating the things in our lives that we are loyal to and asking us to review if that loyalty is actually warranted or not. Because do we own our own heads? Do we know who we are? Are we embodied in the body to turn it on and learn how to take action that will actually give us the foundations of society that we need for our humanity? This is an ongoing story, an ongoing storyline that the cosmos has been playing out for us for a while, and it's only going to intensify as the outer planets are now in this trine, this grand trine forming, as Uranus is in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius, and Neptune in Aries. So the outer planets are saying it is a time of change, but we are the ones that have to lead that change, because someone will lead. So who is leading us and why? And as Neptune and Saturn retrograde in Aries and both make their way back into Pisces at some point, we will then have to ask ourselves, do we know who we are? Have we owned the self? Have we understood the wounding of the self that is a foundation of these colonial projects? And can we then take that knowing, take that review, and then come back into the gods that we give our loyalty to, the collectives that we are a part of, the kind of ideologies and cosmologies that we rest our morals upon? Do those hold up? Do they live up to the end of the contract? And if not, if we're not able to truly live as we are told we're supposed to, do we have the courage then to take that authority back, take that power back, take back the human? This is the weekly forecast for Yapping with the Stars for July 9th through 15th, the full moon in Capricorn, what I am calling time to get practical. Now, this week's a little bit different, y'all. I'm recovering from a pretty bad summer cold, and I'm preparing for my seminar that's going to be this Saturday, July 12th, online, called Understanding Your Spiritual Gifts with Astrology. I'm really excited for this. So I'm kind of both recovering and preserving my energy as I go into the week. And so for folks who are interested, I've got some spots left, and this is a really kind of introductory seminar for my Embodied Futures Lab about what it means to embody the self so that we can strategically dream, what I called Embodied Strategic Dreaming. And so in this seminar, what I'll be doing is kind of breaking down this idea of what is spirit and spirituality and how those must be in a conversation with our concept of the human and humanity, and then how the human turned into man and what it means for us to become human again, especially as we are going into this kind of crossroads of society in which we are being asked to world build. So what world are we building and why and for who, right? In order for us to be able to become human again, as we are facing new technologies, we have to turn the technology of the body on. Then there's a way that astrology can help us with that. It becomes another logic and another blueprint for us to go into, to open up and explore and become curious about who we are and where we come from. And the more curious you are about yourself, the more you can come into the self and understand that the self requires you to understand the connection between your mind and the body, because the body has its own logic. When we turn that body on, we can unlock its wisdoms, which means we then are able to connect to our past, what we call our ancestors. And ancestors are more than just our bloodline. I'll be doing a seminar about them in the coming months, so stay tuned for that. But it also connects us to the environment that we're in, the land that we come from. So if you're interested in learning more about that and having some fun with me online, you can see how to sign up on my website, drnicolerouse.com. Again, there's spaces are limited, but I do have some spaces left. It'll be July 12th online at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, okay? So meet me there. But this week, I'm going to kind of just focus on this full moon in Capricorn and the retrogrades of Saturn and Neptune alongside of it. So this is going to be a shorter episode again, because I'm still recovering a bit from the sickness. And something that really stands out to me is this. What we're seeing is a culmination of things that had started about 6 months ago. So the new moon in Capricorn was December 30th of last year. So think around the time of New Year's Eve, okay? And when you were starting to kind of plant something new, something in the house of Capricorn, whatever house Capricorn rules for you, there was something that was starting to come up, all right? Especially when it comes to being practical about what you need to do tangibly to bring some kind of idea or dream into reality. Now, why do I say that? Because Capricorn is a cardinal sign, it's an earth sign, it is ruled by Saturn. It is the practical nature of Saturn. Capricorn understands that you do have to go to work because there is some effort and work needed for you to be able to bring dreams into reality. Remember, Saturn rules time, and there are different timelines, there are different realities, as the rings of Saturn remind us, right? And so Capricorn being Earth, and when we think about Capricorn as a feminine side of Saturn, but Saturn also being the crone, if you've been following me on the show, I've been talking about that for a bit now. If we understand Saturn as the crone and Capricorn being the earth version, right, the earth side of her, that reminds us that there is a materiality again to our existence, a kind of running theme with earth signs. Taurus is the same in its own right. Virgo is the same in her own right, right? There's a way that we have to remember that we have to bring effort into whatever we are imagining, because it takes that kind of getting in the dirt, getting in the soil, getting your body into the thick of it, that will allow these kind of dreams to manifest into reality. Because Capricorn is loyal. It's a very loyal sign, right? This idea that Capricorn rules capitalism and kind of Wall Street bros and this kind of, emotionless, money-making robot really is nothing more than a co-optation of it through the patriarchal lens of the colonial project in the modern era. Okay, there is a way that, and when there was a remaking of kind of astrology and horoscope and this idea centering the sun over the rising and the moon, there was then a focus on the patriarchy, and therefore a lot of the signs were then filtered through the patriarch's eyes. And this is not just in the modern era. One could argue that this is heavily embedded in also ancient understandings of the various archetypes as well. Once you see socio-political upheavals and uprisings and changings of who essentially is in charge, whether it be a nation state, a monarchy, or the like, right? Whoever is in power, that perspective and lens will then shift and shape the way we understand the cosmos. So when we're also talking about in this present moment, this actually relates to the moment right now, this full moon in Capricorn. If we think about what happened 6 months ago and now, there's been a culmination and illumination of the bullshit of society, of the unsustainability of the economic systems we're in, of the ways that the foundations, even our soil itself, is something that we cannot necessarily rely upon, because the states we are in, those who are in charge, have shown us that these structures have crumbled. These structures are crumbling. They are gone. So now that Uranus is in Gemini, we are going to see rapid change in how we communicate, how we understand our relationship to one another and to technology. So Capricorn, the full moon in Capricorn, is illuminating the fact that we have to get clear about what we are loyal to and get very practical about the steps that are needed for us to create the futures we say we want, because we already know the futures the state wants for us. Regardless of the state you're in, y'all, this is not just the U.S. We have to kind of get both global, national, and local at the same time going in and out, because we're seeing the rise of the techno-fascists, right? We're seeing the rise of the kind of focus on technology via AI and kind of cyber technologies and cryptocurrencies, the way that, and it's being fed to us as another alternative to the nation state that is constructed through borders and boundaries, right, of these various governmental entities. The other option we're getting does not get us free as a collective, but it does shift power from one type of kind of oligarch into another one that is now the technocrat, right? The technocrat. So what does it mean for us then to believe what we are seeing, the illumination of a year-long story that will culminate in the next new moon in Capricorn at the end of the year? What does it mean for us to believe our realities and become loyal to them? By becoming loyal to ourselves and our experiences. And the way we do that is by getting in the body. And this is being highlighted as well because this full moon is in conversation with these nodes that are transiting right now. And where? Another aspect of the body, Virgo, South Node, where Mars is also hanging out pretty close next week. They'll be in a tighter conversation, a conjunction, but then it's also hitting that North Node in Pisces. So what we're also being asked to do is really reflect upon the types of ways that we have rested our knowledge upon, right? With the South Node in Virgo and Mars not far away, our actions are taking on more practicality as well because of the earth element and the need to sort and figure out where we place our feet as the North Node in Pisces is ushering in a new way that we are being asked to engage with the idea of spirit and spirituality and our connections to one another. Because this is about technologies, y'all. Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries. This is the beginning of the construction of new technologies. But do those technologies actually serve the people, or do they further remove us from our bodies, therefore our humanity, which only then elongates and shifts the kind of modality of the colonial project? We are not leaving it or decolonizing it. We are just moving it to another technological location, from the plantation to the kind of computer logged rooms that are also taking from the earth as well. It's a new plantation system, right? When we don't have imaginations that help us imagine something different and new, when we don't know how to world build, because Uranus and Gemini with Pluto and Aquarius is asking us to world build, because again, Neptune and Aries is coming into Neptune. Neptune is the deep ocean. It's the location that we learn or that we create stories from. We create culture, we create illusions. Our myths are our gods, what we believe in, right? We're going to have to ask ourselves what it is we do believe in as society, because we're being fed that the only way we can quote unquote advance is through a continuation of our dehumanization to give it up to those who are owning the resources, right? Because AI is here. Technological advancement is here. Like I said before, this is our industrial revolution. So what do we learn from the last time we were here, when there was a big shift and change and new technologies were coming through, when we saw the rise of new millionaires and billionaires, right? A new monarchy, essentially, through these new bourgeoisies. And then the impact that had on the environment, the impact that had on law, the impact that had on society and on politics, right? The socio-political and economic impact of these so-called new technologies that are meant to make us better and bigger and more at ease. Well, in the present day, it's not done that. It's robbed many of us of health, of family, of connection, of land. And now we're in the midst of another global war because nation states are trying to maintain a power that has already been dissipating in favor of, right, these new technocrats who are seeing the writing on the wall that the nation state is falling. So if we know the nation state is falling because capitalism, especially racial capitalism, is not sustainable, it was always an extractive model that requires the commodification of the body, therefore the commodification of the land, because the land must be worked by people, and then people have become machines via that assembly line, right, that we are now seeing reproduced in real time. Then Saturn retrograding with Neptune is saying we got to review this shit and ask ourselves who and what we are loyal to. And if we have our own head, if we are owning our own heads and owning our origin stories, owning our origin stories, not the origin stories of authority, because we're reviewing this shit because it don't make no sense, then again, asking the question again, who are the gods you are loyal to? And gods ain't got to be a god in the sky. It could be, again, that theory. It could be that politician. It could be somebody else. Who are you loyal to and why? If they're not living up to the end of the contract, then why do you keep giving them their offerings? As we're doing this week, full moon in Capricorn, retrograde in Saturn, okay? We're also seeing a tension between Mars in Virgo and Venus in Gemini. And we've been here before. They've been in trines, they've been in squares. They've been retrograde a long time and came back around again because it was a prep. It was asking us, what is the practicality of the actions that must be taken for us to be able to create these new ways, these new pathways of communication, of relationship, of concepts of justice. Because again, if we don't take this personally, so that we understand that if we don't personalize the ways the state are coming after all of us, then we are giving our authority up once again to those who will then tell and dictate to us what we are supposed to be loyal to and why, where we put our action and passions to and why. So it's a time to get dirty, y'all. It's a time to get dirty. Mars in Virgo is calculating, right? It's also the stomach. So how is your stomach? What is your stomach telling you? Venus in Gemini is communication. It's this idea of shaking up the ways we communicate and the knowledge systems that we engage in. And when we allow ourselves to feel, when we allow ourselves to feel and believe, and then communicate those feelings out, we are shifting and disrupting the systems that told us that this is only an individual bootstrap thing, that if you just did A, B, and C, then you'll get X, Y, and Z. All of that has been laid to rest. We all know that that is bullshit. So right now, action is needed, but it needs rooting in a logic that understands the dualistic nature of the moment. So do you fall back to old ways of knowing that place you in reactionary and escapism mode right now? Do you give way to nihilism, to neutrality, right? Or do you understand that there is no hero in any of this? We're all dirty in some way, shape, or form, or it's going to take us getting dirtier in order to figure out what it means to have a cleansing that lasts beyond us in future generations, right? Or in other words, do you get dirty because you realize there ain't no clean space in a raggedy-ass structure that is built on the blood and bones of the land and our ancestors? So if you believe that, and you understand that it's time to get dirty, then what are the strategies that we use? This is the practicality of Capricorn, illuminating the fact that we're going to have to get in the dirt. We're going to have to root in. We're going to have different logic and different ways of knowing and being. So it's time to turn the body on as a technology, because it is a technology that has already been used and weaponized against us. It is the foundation of the colonial project. And it will still be the foundation of the colonial project, because it does not matter how much AI is supposed to make our lives easier. It will still take human labor to power that AI. It will also take the elements and the resources of this earth. So while it may be a new technology, it's relying upon the same old resources, and we are one of them. So what does it mean to take that resource back? What does it mean to get dirty? What does it mean to allow yourself to understand that we are a technology? And if we are a technology in the kind of institutional spaces, then it is up to us to become the machines that break this shit, right? A book that I used to teach when I was in higher ed that I really still enjoy is A Third University is Possible by LaPoperson. Now, you can actually get this free online through the University of Minnesota Press, which I really like as well. They have, it's a short book, it's a dense book, but it's a short book that is essentially, it's a series that helps folks kind of work through new ideas. And I really like that, because it gets ideas out that are still kind of churning, and in that churning, it plants seeds. And so when I read this in 2016, and again, I've read this a lot. If you're watching this, I got tabs, I got all kinds of stuff. It really has planted seeds in me to question and to think differently about what does it mean to take back the human, so that we can actually live in societies that are sustainable, that are based upon care and love. Because as I said before, love is an element, love is fire. Love is the only logical thing that makes sense, because this shit right here does not give us anything but nonsense, right? Empathy is the only thing that makes sense. Because again, if I'm empathetic to you, if I understand the basis of all of this shit is love, and sometimes love can make you do some fucked up things when you're in reactionary mode, but I see you, I know you, then there is a way that I can make space for you. We can make space for one another. So we can build communities that are not punitive in nature, that will actually allow care and reform and restitution to be the foundation. But we cannot get there, y'all, until we face the fact that we have lost our humanity, and we got to call that motherfucker back. This is our spirits. We got to call the spirit down, y'all, because we've always been connected to something other than ourselves. But when the colonial made themselves God, when they made themselves the creator, they replaced our spirit with theirs. And how can you give us a spirit that you don't even have to begin with? Time to get dirty. So Lepoperson, why am I bringing up Lepoperson? In this book, they are playing off of Donna Haraway's concept of cyborg. This is what Lepoperson says about their term cyborg, S+CYBORG. So cyborg is a queer turn of the word that I offer you to name the structural agency of persons who have picked up colonial technologies and reassembled them to decolonizing purposes. So cyborg is system interference and system witchcraft, the ghost in the machine. Do you believe the ghosts and the monsters knocking at the door? And if you do, then what does it mean for you to fight back? What does it mean for you to be the ghost, the other monster, the one that understands, right, that when change is here, when change is knocking at the door, then it is up to us to harness that change, because it is going to be chaos. We are dealing in chaos because change is chaos. It is something different. It is something new. But when our minds have been conditioned to be docile by thinking that us thinking about something is somehow doing it, that us trying to get the right answer is going to somehow get us liberation and freedom, when every time we get a right answer, it just confines us more into being the perfect vessel to perform what the state needs us to do. Well, then Capricorn right now in this full moon illuminating saying is, what the fuck are you loyal to and why? And Saturn retrograding with Neptune is saying, hey, baby, it's time to review. It's really time to review, because fire and air are here, right? When Neptune turns direct, and then next year when Uranus, because it will go retrograde later this year, and then it'll turn direct next year, we are going to be sitting in fire and air. We're going to be sitting in activation and action. So this is a preview, and it's going to be a reflective mirror. Uranus and Gemini is in this conversation, right? The twins. Pluto and Aquarius. There's a duality here, right? We're going to have to ask ourselves, what are we willing to do in order to ensure that we do own our own heads? Which means we're going to have to own our own spirits. We're going to have to call our spirits down and bring our spirits back, so that we can look to other paths, other templates, other ways of being. Call up the old gods who have been lost, who are also got a bone to pick with these kind of new beings and their disciples who have done nothing more than take and take and take with no reciprocity. It's against the kind of balance of life itself. And if we're not living, but the whole point of being here is to live, then again, who and what are we loyal to and why? And there's a practicality that has to happen right now. We can't just sit in the theoretical. We can't just say the youth will save us, or so-and-so will save us, or a politician will save us, or a concept will save us. No, we have to save us, which means you got to save you, which means you got to get into you, which means you got to find you. And so that is, again, the whole purpose of, one of the main purposes, honestly, of my seminar this Saturday, Understanding Your Spiritual Gifts, because your spiritual gifts is your body, y'all. It's your technology of your body that we have systematically, because of power, the way power is structured right now, we have systematically been trained to not believe or even know how to work with the first technology we have, which is our body. So what would it look like to turn it on? And the astrology chart really can help. It's one way to learn how to get in and work with your own energy and understand that sometimes that energy will be in conflict with others, with structures. But what does conflict, but what is the point of conflict? It's to help us grow. It's to help us understand and see our own kind of boundaries, our own kind of rubbing points, and then to reflect and review if we really want to stay there, if we want to hold the line, or maybe we can bend a bit because we've been asked to bend. Again, Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries is bending things. Like Venus. Venus in Aries bends the concept of gender. Saturn in Aries bends the concept of tradition and time and reality, and even what the margins is. Okay, because if the structure says that we are marginalized, yet we are the majority in numbers and also in strength, then what does it look like then to believe that and take back and redefine then what is resource sharing? What is the economic systems we want to actually live within so that we can have our sense of self be reciprocated, be acknowledged, not just taken from? And no offense, y'all, it's not just saying mutual aid, right? You need resources in order to be able to share with others. And resources aren't just money, it's skills. It's the ability to work through shit. So can we be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, do we even know how to do that? We're jumping steps. We can't jump from being dehumanized for more than 7 generations to somehow thinking tomorrow we're going to make this utopian society and people are not going to fuck up. No, we got to figure out how to become human again. And this to me is the energy of this full moon with these retrogrades, and it's going to be a continuing story because we have to write our own stories. So can we rewrite the story by rewriting our myths in different ways? And in doing so, that hero's journey may not be the best template because we're all a little bit dirty in one way, shape, or form. So what does it look like for us to learn cleansing and protection practices so that we are creating the space for future generations to truly be cleansed so that they can sustainably hold the humanity that we are bringing in? Because again, like I said last week, if we are the new elders, if we must step up and become elders so that we can become good ancestors to help those after us navigate a whole different world, then we as the new elders have to also lead in this world building. So what is the world you want to build? What is the world you are loyal to? Who is in that world? And what does it look like, smell like, feel like, taste like? Can you imagine it? And if you can imagine it, then do you dare to take a first step to figure out how to bring some of that into reality? Okay? All right, y'all, I'm going to stop there so I can keep my energy up. But next week, we are going into a kind of tense time because we're going into Leo season. I'm a Leo now. I'm a late Leo. But I love me some Leo season. But as we go into Leo season, we're going to get that square between Venus and Mars. And Mars will then get conjunct the South Node in Virgo. So there is going to be some tension in the air. So we'll talk about that next week. And next week, I will go back to my normal kind of format. But let me know how this resonated, y'all. This really, truly was a straight yapping session from my heart, okay? My Embodied Futures Lab and my Dream Praxis Studio is something that I'm creating as a way to world build. And world building is not easy. I'm going to say this, okay? World building is not easy. It requires faith. Requires a lot of goddamn faith. There is a way that I had to understand I had to have faith in myself. And this shit is scary. And so I've had to have faith in my vision. I've had to have faith that that I can just keep going. And so it's world building. And what I'm trying to do with the lab and with the studio is to help others understand that the fear is there, but you can work through it. You have to work with it. You have to embody it. You got to look it in the fucking face and say, okay, bet. I've already been through this. Might as well go forward and see what else I can do. And I had to figure out how to be loyal to myself, which means I had to get into myself, right? Which means I had to believe myself. And no matter how crazy it seemed for me to not just go off on my own, but also build a business, but also my own work on dreaming, on dreaming a strategy by becoming human, right? The way that people looked at me like I was crazy the first couple of years trying to even talk about this, right, required me to have to get more in my body, more in my feet, and ask myself, what do I really want and need and desire? And that is what helped me find, honestly, better people to rely upon, help me figure out what community truly is for me. And in that kind of clarity, right? There was a lot of grief. There still is a lot of grief. I'm in an 8th house year right now, and I'm feeling that motherfucker too. But the grief is needed because it clears, it cleanses, it makes space. It's not trying to hurt us. It's trying to help us alleviate the pain that we are all in, because we are carrying the burden of these structures and systems that always tell us that we have to give more. And no matter how much more we give, they'll demand even more, than gaslight us into it. Aren't you exhausted? Aren't you tired? I know I am. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of feeling like I always got to be on a fight, always got to be on, always got to be pushing back against something. I want to just live. I want to just be the romantic poet who wears caftans that are see-through and smokes blunts and has good whiskey and music playing, and a person that I love with me and my child outside able to laugh and sing and sew to their heart's content. Like, I want to live. Tired of fucking fighting. But if I got to fight for that, I fight for that. I'm not fighting for somebody else's idea of life that requires me to just go and bang my head up against a goddamn wall so that I work 8 to 12 hours a day to maybe make enough money to pay a bill that constantly keeps going up as food gets higher and less quality, air gets worse, water quality, for fuck's sakes. Flint just got new pipes and it's been 11 years. What are we fighting for, y'all? That's what I really think this energy is right now. What the fuck are we fighting for? So let this full moon illuminate for you what needs to be seen, and get practical about your dreams and bring them into reality. And when you bring them into reality, make sure that it is centering your humanity, which means you're going to have to feel your feet and believe your body. All right, I'm done. I'm done. If you want to learn more with me, if you want to talk with me, if you want to engage with me, please check out my Patreon, y'all. That is the kind of praxis arm of my lab right now, so that I can work with folks outside of the Chicago area. And also go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, either there or my Substack, because I will be having new seminars coming out through the lab over the next few months. So right now I'm doing the Understanding Your Spiritual Gifts. And in the future, I will be doing seminars on cleansing and protection, with talking about the logic of that and what does that mean. Also deconstruction in you, the ideas of altars in the body, and other things as well. So for more about that, check out my website, sign up for the newsletter. And as always, keep dreaming, keep exploring, because it's through the dreamscapes that we can bring the future say we want into the present day. All right, till next time. I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. Like Michelle sang, the cosmos, where we come from. The light that lit the way for our ancestors in the dark of night, when they had to leave the spaces that tried to steal their breath and life. Reworking, while also learning how to work with the land that was also being worked. A land and people under duress. The trees did not ask if they wanted to participate in such brutal practices. Yet here they were. Here we are. All beholden to a power structure that only knows how to take and never to give, while telling us this is the right way to live. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. As Michelle sang, the cosmos. Imagine that freedom lied in parable of the sower that sowed the seeds of earth's seed that wanted to bring humans back to the stars, to start again, to start anew. Remember where we come from and who we are. The stars that lit the way, that guide the light. The moon that holds the tides of the waters, our connection to earth and land. As above, so below, yet we don't know, because we have lost the above and the below. So I don't want to be right, I just want to be free and journey to the cosmos.